guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, hello, welcome, thank you so much for stopping by. Today's video is going to be my eyeshadow palette collection. If you guys saw my makeup inventory, you guys know that my eyeshadow palette collection is the largest section of my collection. I love playing around with different eyeshadows. I love using them in my body paints. So I do have a large eyeshadow palette collection, but I'm not mad at where it's at. I do rotate out through my palettes and get use out of pretty much all of them, so yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna do that overhead style where you guys just see it all on my desk. I don't have the best setup to show you guys how I store it and everything. I film in the corner of my living room, so it's a little bit harder to show you guys how I store everything. So I hope you guys enjoy just this little overhead of looking at the items in my collection. But yeah, it's going to be a longer video, so if you guys want to grab a drink, some snacks, just hang out and watch the video. It is not going to be a declutter video. I've gone over this in other videos. Not decluttering anything yet. I did talk about some of them if I declutter down the road, but for now I still want to get use out of them. I'm not planning on decluttering anything yet. So yeah, if you guys want to see my eyeshadow palette collection, then just keep on watching. Alright, so we're going to start off with my project pan drawer. So this has my 10 uses project pan shadows in here, as well as my pan those shadows. So we're going to first start off with this e.l.f. bite-sized palette. This one was sent to me from Becca, and I'm not going to say that for all the palettes because I did do a video on palettes Becca sent me and on ones Yessie sent me, so I'm not going to say each palette who sent them to me and everything, so I'm just going to get that out of the way now. If you are curious, then you can always check on my channel and see what palettes I was gifted in 2020 because of my no buy. This is such a pretty palette. This shade did come shattered. I did not use it enough to hit pan on it, but I'm at the point I might just take this shade out and then just use the other three because it's just getting very messy. Such a good quality little quad. Next is the Ace Beauté Vintage Dawn, and this is the second palette that's in my 10 uses. The rest of these here are my pan those shadows. But this one right here I got in a Boxycharm and I absolutely love it. I love the yellows and the gold grungy green there. Blue is insane. The mattes are very, very pigmented. The shimmers do apply best with my finger, I have found. So if you don't like using your finger for shimmers, I don't know if you'll enjoy this palette because I just don't like how it picks up on a brush. I get compliments every time I wear these 4 shades. That's been pretty much a go-to look for me even before this palette was in my 10 uses project. But next is the ColourPop Dream Street palette, and this is the shade I'm working on in my pan those shadows, but this is such a pretty neutral with a pop of blue and pink palette. I don't use the pink too much. It is a very bright pinkish red shade, but so pretty. Next is a palette I got specifically just for the packaging, and that's because it's an Alice in Wonderland themed palette. And I mean, I've said that every single time that I mention this palette. It is absolutely beautiful. It is an eye and cheek palette, but I do not use the blush in here much. Everything is all shimmers in here except for the blush. This is the shade that I'm working on in my pan those shadows. Aside from getting it just for the packaging, these shimmers are actually pretty good quality. It is super bulky, but I don't care. I'm never getting rid of this palette. I don't care. It's super old already, but I don't care how old it'll be. If anything, if I depot the shades, I'm always just going to keep this as a decoration piece once I can put makeup on display and not film in my living room. Next is the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette, and this palette I use so much. This makes a beautiful blush. I can use the browns for my eyebrows, and it was one of my first high-end eyeshadow palettes aside from the Urban Decay Naked palette, and I absolutely love it. And this is the shade that's in my pan those shadows. I think this palette is just so well done. You've got your neutral mattes, you got your cool mattes, and then you got your warm mattes, and you can just get a perfect blend of just a matte eyeshadow look just using each little quad. I don't know if they're making this anymore with the new rebranding for KVD Vegan Beauty, but I hope they do. I absolutely love it. Next is the Juvia's Place Nubian 2. This green shade is the shade we are working on in my project pan, but this is fall in a palette. Absolutely gorgeous. This makes a really pretty face highlight shade. I absolutely adore this palette. Juvia's Place for the quality and the price, even paying full price, definitely recommend. But Juvia's Place goes on sale a lot, so if you can find any palette, as long as you enjoy the color story, you will not be disappointed in the formula. And then next we have the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette. We are working on this shade in my project. It's so pretty. The BH Cosmetics Baked Shimmer formula is absolutely insane. It is technically an eye and face palette, just like the Alice in Wonderland one, but I do just use this as an eyeshadow. I don't use it as a face highlight. It's just so pretty. The mattes are really, really pigmented, and then the shimmers are just on a whole nother level. I absolutely adore this palette. So next is my ColourPop drawer. I did take out the Super Shocks that were in here. It's just so we had only palettes, but I have all my ColourPop items together. So first off, we have the Disney Midnight Masquerade. And this palette is absolutely gorgeous. The deep shades at the bottom are so rich and pigmented. I don't use the two glitters much on my eyes, but I definitely need to incorporate them into some body paints. Artwork is absolutely stunning. This shade right here, perfection. It's like a pink shade with a green gold like duochrome. I don't know how to explain it, but it is absolutely gorgeous. Then we have the Mulan palette, and this one was actually gifted to me from my mom. Technically, we got it for her first because it came back in stock around her birthday. She really liked the color story from the swatches. She wanted to pick up a couple other items because Mulan is her favorite, and Mulan is definitely one of my favorites as well. But when I got it in person, she wanted to see some other like swatches. She wasn't the biggest fan of the textured shades, though there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shades she wasn't really going to use in the palette, so she just said that I would get more use out of it than her, so she ended up letting me keep this along with one of the Mulan blushes. Next is the ColourPop Yes Please palette, and this one is so used and abused. This one back in 2019 was my go-to for any wedding I went to, and that was mainly because this shade right here is just the most intense, insane, like beautiful shimmer shade. These two have significant dips in them. I don't know how they don't have pan in them because I use those shades so much. Next is the Give It To Me Straight palette, and this is kind of your rosy neutral palette. The shimmers in this palette are absolutely insane as well. This one is a really, really pretty face highlight shade. You can go a little bit deep over here, but for the most part, you can keep it pretty light and just like very romantic, I feel like, with this palette. And then we have the Bye Bye Birdie palette. And this one has 2 Super Shock shades and then 2 glitters. The 2 Super Shocks aren't like the other Super Shocks in the individual pan where they have a very solid base to them. These are more just Super Shock sheeny topper shades, but they are both really, really pretty. So now for the 9 pans, we have the Miss Bliss palette. This one came with 1 broken shade, and this is the Side to Side shade from the Sweet Talk palette. It is the Super Shock shade. There's a couple others that Becca took out of other palettes and put them in around these ones. But yeah, so that one is from a different palette. This shade came broken, so I don't even know if that's what the shade looks like or if it's just a mix of all the shades that shattered a little bit and fell into there. And then this is a glitter shade. So speaking of glitters, for the Baby Got Peach palette, she did take out 2 of the shades and replace them with pressed glitters. I don't know where these ones are specifically from. She did write them on the back, but I don't feel like popping them out to see. But it does come with 1 pressed glitter normally. These 2 have been added in. I'm not the biggest fan of bright orange shades or bright pinks, but peaches I really do enjoy because I feel like they're the toned down version of a pink and an orange, where I can get the same kind of effect without feeling like it's too intense for my liking. Then we have the In a Trance palette, and this one has a glitter as well as another Super Shock shade. And again, this Super Shock is one of those sheer bases and just a very shiny lid topper type instead of a full-on pigmented metallic Super Shock shade. I love the 2 blues. The purples are really pretty, and these pinks are really nice too because they lean more purpley. This is really the only one that's super pink. The others are pink, but they do have purple to them. This one right here is the Just My Luck palette, and this is a grungy lover's dream. I absolutely adore this palette. I love grungy greens, and then you've got the green brown shades, like a shimmer and a matte. That's not just green. I can do like a grungy brown look as well. And then the Mint to Be. This one is so pretty as well. Very well done, like minty palette. And then this one, aside from being a ColourPop Mandalorian Star Wars collaboration, this is my everyday type palette in general. The shimmers, there's enough depth in them where it goes light to a darker-ish green without getting too dark. I've got the perfect row here for a neutral eye, and then I've got the 2 rows of greens, but they all work together so well. I can use this to deepen up because we don't have the darkest, you know, greens in here. If I could only keep one palette, I think this would be it. I mean, it's got 9 shades. I'm not gonna have a ton of color. Neutrals and grungy greens are my everyday type palette. So like these, if I could only keep one, I think this would be it. Next is the longer palette drawer, some smaller palettes as well. And then, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really know how to organize the rest of the palettes, but I tried and they fit. So this is what we're going with. So we're gonna start off with these little mini guys in the middle. So we have another e.l.f. bite-sized palette. This is the blue one. This is the Acai palette. Again, super pretty, super creamy for the mattes and the shimmers. Very, very good. Very good for the price as well. I definitely recommend giving these a shot if you haven't. I mean, it's $3. If you end up not liking it, you don't like it. I like both of them. The next is the Kaleidos Futurism 3 Astro Pink. This is what the palette looks like. It is absolutely gorgeous. So you have a more neutral, a more pink tone neutral shade, the most reflective purpley shimmer shade. You've got the duochrome bluey purple shade. Again, I love purples against my hazel eyes, so this is just a very pretty color story and they all work. It's not like there's a shade in here that just doesn't fit with the others. Definitely want to try more from Kaleidos. These palettes are just so cute and very good quality. Next, I literally hold on to this for sentimental reasons, and this is the Dior palette. It is an eye and lip palette. And you can see this shade keeps coming out. I have not used this thing on my eyes in forever. I haven't even used these lip products in even longer, but these pans are just so small. Very basic nude palette, but I just don't reach for it. But I'm gonna still hold on to this for now for, again, sentimental reasons. If I end up decluttering anything down the road, I think this will be one of them. I gotta let the sentimental value go first. Then we have the Dose of Colors Baked Browns palette. This one has everything you need to create a brown smoky eye. The shades are so pigmented. There is a little bit of fallout with them, but I will take fallout instead of having to dip in the dark brown like 80 times to build it up. I absolutely love building up depth with mattes and then popping a shimmer, so very happy with this palette. Then I have the Smashbox Cover Shot Bold palette, and this was like one of my first rainbow palettes. This was before the drugstore had very good colorful eyeshadows, so I did splurge a little bit at Ulta and pick this up, and either way, I still love it. It's got your basic Roy G. Biv colors. I really enjoy those. The 2 shimmer shades at the top are just, they're decent. They're okay. They're nothing to write home about, but the mattes are really good in this palette. And then look at that packaging too. So pretty. And then we have the Huda Beauty Ruby Obsessions palette. And this one was in my December Boxycharm, and it's not as red as I thought. Either way, it's really pretty. I don't have a ton of reds in my collection. The formula is really good, but yeah, I just don't reach for reds too much. So this might just get me to reach for these types of shades more often. So next is another palette from December's Boxycharm, and this is the Vizier Neutral Matte Palette, and these are so pigmented, so beautiful as well. Every single nude shade you'll need. You've got the browns, but you also got the gray and the black. You've got a more like orange shade, and then kind of just a cool tone brown there as well. Either way, such a great quality palette. I would never pay the full price for it, but I'm happy to have tried it from Boxycharm, and I use this a lot. All right, so next is this Dior Amber Neutrals Backstage palette. You've got your eyeshadow primer. These shimmers are just a sheeny shimmer. They're very pretty, very blendable, very pigmented, and just, it's a very good palette. I do enjoy it. Very compact, very easy for travel, even though none of us are really traveling right now. When we do, this is another really good travel size palette. Then I have the Dose of Colors I Love Sarai palette, and this one I debated on picking up for so long, but Dose of Colors is really expensive, and I just never bit the bullet, and then it came in a Boxycharm. I got very excited, and I really enjoy this palette. I use this shade as a blush here and there, and this one I can get away with as a highlight shade as well. So it's just a very versatile palette. I really do enjoy it. Then I have the Colored Rain Lovelies palette, and my one friend gave this to me for Valentine's Day. Very pretty palette, and this blue is one of my favorite blues in my collection in general, so yeah. Then we have the Tarte Original Tartelette palette, and this one is another palette that's very used and abused in my collection. And these two specifically, this is back when I used just clear eyeshadow primer and use these to set my eye before adding any other color. These shades I can get away with using for my eyebrows. This is a really well-rounded matte eyeshadow palette. So next is the Sugar Pill Little Twin Stars palette. I feel like it's super, super cute. Definitely fits with the theming. Yeah, it's the first palette I've tried from Sugar Pill, and I really do enjoy this, and it's just so cute. All right, oldie but a goodie, we have the Urban Decay Naked palette. This one is one of my first eyeshadow palettes. I absolutely love it, and this is your actual like neutral palette. At first I thought this was like a very warm palette once they brought out Naked 2, but this literally is just very neutral compared to other palettes. Half Baked was one of my favorites for the longest time. Still is a very gorgeous gold shade. I haven't used this on my eyes in a hot minute because it is very, very old. But again, I will probably hold on to this for sentimental value because it was one of my first ones. It got me pretty much into makeup. I absolutely love it. Next, we have the Melt Impulsive palette, and this one, absolutely gorgeous as well. It's got my grungy greens with the yellow. It's got the deep purple. It's got purple shimmers, blues. It's got darker shimmers. Absolutely beautiful. And this shade is kind of similar to that one in the ColourPop Disney Designer one. Absolutely beautiful. Very, very beautiful palette. So next is the Violet Voss Essentials palette, and this one came in a Boxycharm. This one is super, super pretty as well. You've got a good depth for matte shades. It's just a very basic fall palette, and I absolutely love it. This introduced me to Violet Voss. They have very beautiful soft matte shades, but they're buildable and blendable and very good formula overall. Then I got the Violet Voss Essentials 2 in a more recent Boxycharm, and this one is another kind of fall-y palette, but you got bright purple and the bright blue. These shades are very, very pretty, and it's that same very good Violet Voss formula. I feel like these two in conjunction just give you a perfect fall eyeshadow combo. And then the other Violet Voss palette, which I just got in January's Boxycharm. This is the Olive You Forever palette, and again, it's that same great Violet Voss formula, super creamy, blendable, pigmented matte. I've done a neutral eye, but I've also done a grungy green eye as well with it, and absolutely beautiful. I love it. So then we have the Jaclyn Hill Morphe Bling Boss. That is just a beautiful purple palette. This shade is so dark and gorgeous. This one is a little bit bright compared to everything else. Take that away, I feel like the color story is a little bit more cohesive. Either way, it's a very beautiful palette. I love how purples look again against my hazel eyes. Then we have the Dark Magic palette, and this one I initially picked up because I didn't have as many eyeshadow palettes at the time, and this was different than anything else I had. And this is the palette that got me into grungy greens because of this shade right here. I was lucky enough to be one of the people who got a good quality palette in the vault, and then this one was from Becca and it was good quality as well. Then we have the Too Faced Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar palette. Clearly you guys can see my first couple eyeshadow palettes I had in my collection before having a lot. I had my cream shade that I would hit pan on because I would use them to set my eyeshadow primer. This is just like a topper type shade. It really has no base to it, and it still smells like chocolate. Then we got the Anastasia Mario palette, which I wish was not limited edition because this is the most beautiful fall everyday type palette. It makes wearing blue and green not that scary if you are trying to just get into those types of colors. I wish they brought this back or did something similar to this because I feel like so many people would get a lot of use out of this palette. I absolutely adore it, and again, I will never be getting rid of this palette. Another palette I might be getting rid of soon is the Modern Renaissance. This was my Project Pan palette last year, and I got so much use out of it. I hit pan on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shades, completely used up 2. Very classic palette. Keeping it in my collection a little while longer. I might get rid of it by the end of this year, just along with some other items, just because it is a little bit older of a palette. And the Anastasia formula does tend to go bad compared to other formulas a little bit quicker. It doesn't matter, I'm never getting rid of the Mario palette at least. This one I can always rebuy if I miss it, but the Mario palette I can't, so that one's staying forever. Then we have the Dose of Colors Desi and Katie Friendcation palette. Again, this was something I have considered purchasing, but Dose of Colors is pretty expensive. Even on sale, I never bit the bullet. When Yessie asked if I wanted the palette, I could not say no. This is again a very nice neutral palette with a pop of green and like different depths of blue. I absolutely adore this palette. I use this one a lot for being a newer palette in my collection. We have the Dominique Cosmetics Celestial Thunder, and then this was from Boxycharm. This shade right here is like a pink but like copper shimmer. I don't know, it's like a duochrome shade. I don't know if it's picking up on camera at all. I wish it went a little bit darker with a matte shade, but I'm not complaining. It's a very good quality palette. Then we got the Zoeva Caramel Melange palette. Very basic warm toned palette, but I do like the pop of the purpley brown shade here. So the last palette in this drawer is the Boxycharm Hello Charmer palette. This one, again, I feel like just neutral with the pops of blue. The pink glitter shade here is absolutely gorgeous, like a pink to blue glitter. I just wish this palette went a little bit darker. I do really enjoy this, and I love that the lighter transition-y shades are yellow tones because I absolutely adore yellow in like the crease and just yellow eyeshadow in general. I think it's actually pretty good. All right, so next drawer is the ones that don't really stand up nicely. They're a little bit larger, but not classified as one of my large palettes. So first we have the Earth and Ocean palette from e.l.f. Very beautiful blue and green toned palette. I absolutely love it because I've got like the neutral shades, but I've got like grungy neutrals, the yellows, and then I got like the blue shades. So I really enjoy this palette. I think it is perfectly done. Then we have the e.l.f. Opposites Attract palette, which this is your warm tone, cool tones. Love me those yellowy shades. The other shades are really pretty as well, and these are actually pretty good quality. e.l.f. definitely has stepped up their game the past couple years with their eyeshadow palette. And then the e.l.f. Retro Paradise. This shade is kind of similar to that Melt one as well as the one in the ColourPop palette, so I'm glad I at least have 3 shades that are kind of similar. Very pretty springy summertime palette, and you can go a little bit darker with some of the shades as well, so it's very versatile. Then we got my other Juvia's Place palettes. This one is the Nubian 3 Coral palette. Love the coral shades. The grays are very good quality as well. I just need to play around with grays in general more than I do. I really only use them for characters and in my shading for body paints. And then this one is the Saharan palette. This transition shade is very good as well. It's not too dark for my skin tone, where you'll see in the other one, I don't really have a nice transition shade. So the Saharan 2, these 2 shades are absolutely insane. The blues are very pretty, so like I love the neutral with the pop of blue. Unlike where I was talking about in this palette where I have a transition shade, this one has 3 matte shades that are all a little bit too dark to be a transition shade for me, so I do have to pull something else in. I took this to Thailand and Japan with me and got a lot of use out of it. Very, very pretty. This is a gorgeous face highlight shade as well. And then the Magic Mini, again, I kind of don't have a transition shade in this one. I do have to mix the 2 to get a transition shade. You've got your warm tones and then you got your cool tones. This one is a dark blue. This is like a dark purple shade. Very, very pretty. The cool tones do just go pretty deep. You can get a pretty light everyday eye going with the warm tone shades up here. Then we have the Becca Volcano Goddess. This one here is a very light palette, and this shade and these 3 are kind of similar to that Ace Beauté like textured shimmer formula, where these are just very shimmer, very soft. I wish we had a deeper neutral shade. Very good quality palette. I just wish there was a little bit more depth in it when it comes to the mattes. Then we have the Fenty Beauty Moroccan Spice palette, and this one is really, really pretty as well. These are some of those where it's the soft, shimmery formula. It's not going to be like a Juvia's Place metallic foiled shade, but they are very pretty, very reflective, catch the light very nicely. The mattes are very blendable, but these 3 shades kind of are a little bit darker, but going light-handed, I can make them work as a transition shade, but very pretty nonetheless. Then we got the Tarte Tartelette Pro palette, and this one has 16 mattes and 4 shimmers, and I feel like this one was done right. You've got enough depth from light to dark in each row of mattes. You've got a really nice white shade, and then you've got a really nice black shade as well. And then you've got the perfect shimmer shades to go along with it, and it's very pretty. All right, then we have the Alter Ego Sahara palette. I think this one is supposed to be duping the Natasha Denona Biba. I think the Safari is the all matte one. I get those mixed up all the time, but this one is mostly matte, but you have 3 shimmers. I could never justify Natasha Denona, especially knowing that this is supposed to be a dupe for it, and it is very, very good quality. Then we have the Pure Festival palette. This one is from Boxycharm as well. I don't use this hot pink at all. This peachy pink is a very pretty blush shade. I feel like this is a really pretty palette, and you can get a little bit of depth with the matte shade, but you do have a couple darker shimmers as well. More so just this shade that I don't really like, but take that away and it's a lot more wearable to me. Then we have the Hip Dot Zion palette, another one from Boxycharm, and I've got the warm tones, I got the purples. My eyes pop whenever I use this palette, and I have nothing bad to say about it. Then we have the Nomad Cosmetics Berlin Underground palette, and another grungy lover's dream. I just wish there was more mattes in this palette, but color story wise, absolutely beautiful. Beautiful formula, beautiful color story, and it's got skulls on the pans, and I love skulls. Then we have the Storybook Cosmetics Little Red Riding Hood palette. Such a good palette. I've been so interested in Storybook Cosmetics because of the aesthetics of the palettes. So glad I got it in Boxycharm. This is a beautiful blush shade. So cute, perfect warm tone palette. And then the last palette in this drawer is the Storybook Cosmetics Little Briar Rose. Got this in Boxycharm. This is like your neutral with a pop of blue. This pink shade, cover that up, and I like this palette a whole lot more. Pink shade also has like the glitter flecks in it, and that glitter fallout in this shade is insane. I don't like it, but I do enjoy every other shade in the palette. Very good quality shadows. All right, so this one right here is like my large palette drawer palettes that I don't know where to put. This one is the OMFG Cosmetics Sugar and Sweets, and this is a cute little pastel palette. I absolutely adore the packaging of it. The shadows are actually pretty good as well. Very happy with this palette. This blue shade, put this on top of a black base and thank me later. Absolutely beautiful. Then we have the Makeup Obsession X Ratty palette. This is the Daydream palette. I love the yellows in the bottom. The blues are beautiful. I very much so enjoy this palette. I use this a lot for my paints, but I also use this on my eyes. This palette, honestly, I don't know if I've actually ever used on my eyes. Maybe when I first got this, I won it in a giveaway. You can see there's some pan in here. You can see the shades are very, very messy. Hasn't been on my eyes in a hot minute, but I will continue using this until I literally can't use it anymore and use it in my paints. And we have the Beaky Blender Happy Makeup Halloween palette, and this one again I use a lot for my paints. The black isn't the most intense black, but it works really well to shade my body paints. I can build it up to be dark, but it doesn't start off too dark where it's difficult to blend out. It has the most beautiful Juvia's Place type shimmer shades. They nailed the theming. Then we have the Sephora Editorial Pro palette. Again, I used to use this a lot on my eyes, but now I do use it a lot more for my body paints. Got really bright mattes, very beautiful, very pigmented, and then these shimmers at the bottom are insane, and you've got a very good quality black and a very good quality white. I do still use this on my eyes here and there, but I do use it a lot more in my paints because it is a bigger palette and I don't always remember to reach into my big palette drawer. We'll get this one out of the way because it's not really a big palette, but this was the drawer it fit in the best. And this is the Color Workshop Hue eyeshadow palette. And I think this palette's on like the cheaper end if I remember correctly. It's actually a pretty decent quality palette. It's a lot better quality than I thought it was going to be. And I enjoy all the colors in here, again, except for really that pink. But like, take that away, I love all the colors in here. These 5 shades right here remind me of In a Trance, and then this is kind of like the Just My Luck, and then a neutral palette. But either way, very, very pretty. Same with this Makeup Revolution Optimum palette. It's not a huge palette, but it just fits in here the best. Some of the shades weren't the best on the eyes. I prefer this as shading. It's not horrible quality. I don't hate it where I'm not going to use it. Then we have the GLF Rainbow Unicorn palette, and this is actually my friend's palette with GLF Cosmetics. It is a beautiful rainbow palette. Beautiful mattes, very pigmented. The shimmers are insane, and it's got the cutest little unicorn mirror. Then we have the Anastasia Norvina Volume 4 palette, and this is a very springtime looking palette. The glitters I could do without, but again, this one was sent to me. This shade was broken, but I don't mind. This yellow is beautiful. It's really weird. It doesn't really fit with the rest of the colors in here. I still absolutely love it, and the warm tone neutrals are beautiful in here. I was intimidated by it at first because I saw all the hot pinks, but you take away the hot pink shades and it's just a very beautiful neutral palette. Then we have the Louisan Rainbow palette. This one was sent to me, and you've just got a spectrum of shades for each color of the rainbow. The only thing is the yellow row has a white, and then the purple row has a black. I kind of wish those two shades were corresponding with the rest of the palette, like another yellow, and then I hate to say it, but I wish that was a purple glitter, but it would work if I needed a purple glitter for a paint. I have every color I need right here. Then we have this Morphe palette. This is the 35M, and this is fall, grungy, everything I love in a color story and more, especially those top two rows. Just everything grungy and purple, I love it. Then we have the original Jaclyn Hill palette. I know the formula has changed, but I still got it when it was the original formula, and it still performs really, really well. Again, beautiful neutral palette with a pop of like blue and purple, and then some of the greens. It sucks that the formula changed because this was such a good staple palette, and I feel like everyone felt that way about it. Sucks that the formula is just not as good anymore. And then my favorite Morphe palette, the 39A. Everything grungy and beautiful. The grungiest grungy palette ever. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I love it so much. So then I have the Huda Beauty Pastel Lilac, and I did just pop on the same sweater to film this right now. This is literally filmed after I've edited the video, and then I had some new palettes come in, so I figured I would just pop them in the video. But this one right here I got in my February Boxycharm. I do enjoy this color story a lot more than the Ruby Obsessions I got in last month's box, or 2 months ago. I think it was the December one. But either way, I enjoyed this color story a lot more. Just really, really pretty, and I can't wait to play around with it even more. Then we have the Ace Beauté Nostalgia palette, and again, I've tried Ace Beauté before, but this formula seems different to me. The mattes still are that very pigmented, very blendable matte formula, but these shimmers aren't as textured and hard to pick up with a brush. I still prefer them with a finger, but you can pick them up easier with a brush than the one in the Vintage Dawn palette. This I feel like would make a really pretty like blush shade, and then you only have 3 shimmers here, so I do enjoy that there are more mattes than shimmers. This came in this month's base box for Boxycharm. Then we have my 2 Lunar Beauty palettes. I did end up getting another one for my mom, and she has the Eternal Eclipse, which, I mean, I still technically have it because she has not gotten it yet because we do not live in the same continent, but these are the 2 I got for myself because Beauty Bay was having a sale for Super Bowl, so we got 20% off. The first one here is the Moonspell palette, and this one I had eyed since the day it was released. This is absolutely stunning. Absolutely love Halloween. I love snakes, so like the skulls, this packaging is just everything. So much detail went into this. I'm like, I don't know what to say. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the color story is like my dream kind of color story. I love neutrals for every day for work. I love my grungy greens, and then I love wearing purples as well. So this is just like me in a palette, I think. Aside from just the theming, I think the color story is absolutely perfect. This was the first time I tried Lunar Beauty. My friend Becca recommended them. I asked her to like recommend some indie brands. She told me definitely to try the Lunar Beauty shadows, and with this catching my eye for so long, I knew it was time to like bite the bullet and give it a shot, and I'm very, very happy with it. Then we have the Greek Goddess palette, and this was his first one in this style of palettes, I think. And yes, I still keep these 2 in the boxes because the boxes are absolutely stunning as well. And this one I literally got mainly because it's Medusa on the packaging, and I absolutely love Medusa. I just love like everything like Greek goddesses and all that. It is just like your neutral with a pop of blue, but The formula is so nice. This is such a dark, chocolatey, purpley brown. Blends so nicely. I am so happy with this palette. I'm gonna get so much use out of this. The formula is amazing. So thank you, Becca, for telling me to definitely try Lunar Beauty's shadows. I am not disappointed whatsoever. And then my last drawer is my Jeffree palettes, and I'm still gonna show them because I own them. I'm not gonna get rid of them because I bought them all with my own money. I'm not gonna get rid of them just because of the whole Jeffree thing. They're in my collection. I'm gonna still keep them. They're great quality eyeshadows, so I'm still gonna use them. I'm still gonna show you because they are in my collection, but I'm gonna go through them very quickly because they were all in my Jeffree Star collection video. First off, mini controversy, Shane and Jeffree. You got neutrals, you got your blues, and then you got your purple shades. Mini Breaker, very pinky purple toned palette with the yellows and golds in there. This dark purple is my favorite thing in this palette. Love or hate Jeffree, his eyeshadows are great. Thirsty palette, this metallic row is absolutely beautiful. Jeffree and Morphe, one of the best blacks in my collection. It's not as pink as I initially thought. It's just more pink with the packaging, but it's not as pink as I thought it was when I initially saw it, so I do enjoy this palette a lot more than I thought I would. Alien, one of my absolute favorite palettes. It's got the grungy tones. Love this palette, love the packaging, and I'm never gonna get rid of it. And then we got Jeffree's first palette, the Beauty Killer palette. And again, cover up this pink shade. I like every other shade. This is the most perfect transition shade for my skin tone. Yeah. Then we have Blue Blood, which is absolutely beautiful. Great quality eyeshadows, beautiful packaging, great quality shadows. Love him or hate him. Again, he makes good makeup. And then lastly, the Shane and Jeffree Conspiracy palette. I keep these three Jeffree palettes in the boxes because they are awkward to store otherwise. Again, love them or hate them. I love the color story. I love the quality. Great eyeshadows. I use this a lot. I don't use it as much as Alien. Alien is definitely my favorite Jeffree palette. But alright guys, so that was it for my eyeshadow palette collection. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you want to see any tutorials and reviews, looks on specific palettes you guys saw. I will do that for you because I know I have a ton, and when I do my body paints, I go through a couple different palettes. I don't just use one for the eyes and for shading. I use a lot of them just to get as much use out of each palette that I can. So if you want to see any specific palettes in a video, definitely let me know. If you guys have an eyeshadow palette collection video, definitely let me know down below because these are some of my favorites to watch. I just love seeing what different eyeshadow palettes people have and their thoughts on them. So yeah, with that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the little bell notifications so you guys know every single time that I upload. And yeah, I love you guys and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.